Welcome to lesson 14. Let's get started. So, we're talking about fractions today. A fraction is when you have a number, then you draw a line, and then you have another number below it. The top number we call the numerator. The line in the middle is called the fraction line or fraction bar, either one of those terms. I normally call it a fraction bar, but you might see in your book more often fraction line, but either one, same thing. And then the bottom number is called the denominator. So what's the top number called? Numerator. And the bottom number? Denominator. Very good. Very important terms for you to know. Now a fraction shows the parts of a whole. So if you look over here at my square, it's divided into 4 parts. Now these are not perfect squares, so it's not exactly in equal parts, but we'll pretend that it is. So it's divided into 4 equal parts. Only one of them is colored in. So in a fraction, the number of parts that I have, that is my bottom number. That's my denominator. The number of parts that I have, or that I want, or that are being designated, that are being chosen, shown, that's the numerator. So I have 1 part colored in, so it's 1/4 of my square, 1 out of my 4 parts. Let's look down here. Here I have 2 parts colored in. So 2 is my numerator because that's how many parts that I have colored in. My parts in all is 4. So I have 2/4. Down here I have 3 parts colored in, so that's my numerator. The number of parts in all is 4. So I have 3/4. And on my bottom I have 4 parts colored in out of 4 total parts. So it's 4/4. Those are my fractions. Now there are some fractions that have the same number of parts, the same size, the same value, but they have different names because they're shown with different numbers. These are called equivalent fractions. See that word equal there? In equivalent, that means that the fractions really are the same. They have the same value if they are equivalent fractions. So I'm going to show you an equivalent fraction. Right here you have the fraction 2/4, 2 of the 4 pieces. Look at the square right next to it, right here. Do you see how it has the same size colored in, the same size piece colored in as this one? But it's different because this fraction, this is just 1 out of 2 pieces. My 2 pieces are bigger, but it's only 1 of them out of 2, but it's the same size as my 2/4. They are equivalent fractions because they are really the same size fraction, but they have a different name to them. 2/4, 1/2. We're going to come back to this idea in just a second, but I want you to look at something up here. If I multiply or divide a number by a fraction that has the same numerator as denominator, so the same number in the numerator as in the denominator, I can change my fraction, the name of my fraction, without changing the value. Let me say that again. If I multiply or divide a fraction by another fraction that has the same number in the numerator and in the denominator, I change the numbers in my fraction, so I change the name of my fraction, but not the value of my fraction. Let me show you why. 3/3, 1.743 over 1.743, 1/2 over 1/2. These are all fractions, and they have the same number in the numerator and in the denominator. It's repeated. All of these fractions are equal to 1. The reason for that is this fraction bar indicates division. So this is really saying 3 divided by 3. 3 divided by 3, well, any number divided by itself is equal to 1. 1.743 divided by 1.743 is 1. 1/2 divided by 1/2 is 1. So all of these fractions are 1. Now we know that if you multiply something by 1 or if you divide something by 1, you end up with the same number, right? So if you multiply something by a fraction with the same number in the numerator as you have in the denominator, that means you're multiplying it by 1. So the value does not change, even though the numbers will change. The value does not change. For example, if I multiply 2/3 by 3/3, I'm going to change the numbers in my fraction, but the value no, because it means I'm multiplying 2/3 by 1. So 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. So my new fraction is 6/9, and it has the same exact value as 2/3. It's an equivalent fraction. So let's talk about finding equivalent fractions. You are going to need to find equivalent fractions, and the way that your book will ask you to do this, it will say, find the equivalent fraction that has a denominator of, and then it will give you the number that should be in the denominator of your new fraction. So let me show you how to work those problems. The first one is right here. And they will tell you to, when they want you to make an equivalent fraction, they're going to say expand your fraction. So you're making it bigger, but the value is not changing. The numbers are going to change, but the value is not, because you're going to be multiplying it by 1. So if I want to expand 3/4 so that the denominator is 24, which number is the denominator? The number on the bottom or the number on the top? The number on the bottom, good. So I want 3/4 to be changed so it has a denominator of 24. To make this, look at what I did up here, okay? To make my new fraction, my new denominator here, what did I have to do to the old one? I had to multiply 3 times 3 to get 9. So that means I have to multiply 4 times something to get to 24. Well, what do I multiply 4 by to get to 24? Well, to find that, remember, you just have to undo it by division. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that means I multiplied 4 times 6 so that I got 24. So now I have to multiply my numerator by that same number. So that way I'm multiplying my fraction by the same number in the numerator as I am in the denominator. That will expand my fraction to give me an equivalent fraction. So 3 times 6 is 18. Very good. So 18/24 is my equivalent fraction. Now I want to show you one more thing before we move on to the next example. This is something that I taught my other students, and this may help you, or you may just want to look at it the way I did it. You're basically going around your fraction like this. I divide 24 divided by 4, and I got 6. I multiplied 6 times 3, and I got 18. So I just go in the shape of a C. Divide, get my answer, multiply, get my answer. Okay? So let's try that with this one. I want to expand 5 so that it has a denominator of, a denominator of 20. Denominator of 20. So first I have to write 5 as a fraction. And remember, you can write a whole number as a fraction by putting it over 1. I want it to have a new denominator of 20. 20 divided by 1 is 20. Times 5 is 100. So that's my new numerator. Let's do the same thing with 3/5. I want it to have a denominator of 20. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Times 3 is 12. And that's all you have to do. So divide, multiply. You got your answer. All right? Now let's talk about making your fraction smaller. So we've talked about expanding your fraction. If you want your fraction to be smaller, you need to reduce your fraction. So just as I said, you can multiply multiply by the same number on the top that you have on the bottom without changing the value. You can divide by the same number on the top that you have on the bottom, and it will not change the value, just the name of the fraction. You always need to write your answers reduced unless you're purposely trying to expand them. So this is a very important step. You need to know how to reduce your fraction. That's writing it in the smallest way possible. So I want to reduce 30 over 45. I want it to be the smallest that it possibly can. So I have to first decide what is my greatest common factor. Your greatest common factor is the largest factor of both 30 and 45. So the biggest number that can evenly be divided into 30 and 45. So what is the biggest number that can go into both 30 and 45? This might take a little bit of thinking. Sometimes you'll have to reduce in 2 steps because you may not be able to think of the greatest common factor right away. The biggest one is 15. 15 can be divided evenly into both 30 and 45. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. And 45 divided by 15 is 3. So I've just reduced my fraction by dividing it by the same number on the top and the bottom. And I got 2/3. All right, pause the video and do your practice on page 46. Okay, you should be back with your practice all completed. Letter A. Now this one, for letters A, B, and C, you needed to write your fractions with a new denominator of 18. So letter A, 3 becomes 54 over 18. You had to multiply 3 times 18 to get your denominator, or excuse me, your numerator of 54. B, 1/6 becomes 3/18. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Letter C, 4/9 becomes 8/18. 18 divided by 9 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Letter D, you were supposed to reduce for D, E, and F. D should be 3/4 because their greatest common factor is 6. So 18 divided by 6 is 3. 24 divided by 6 is 4. E should be 1/2, 1/2. That's because their greatest common factor is 36. 36 divided by 36 is 1, and 72 divided by 36 is 2. If you had to do this in more than one step, for example, maybe you thought, oh, 12 is the greatest common factor. 36 divided by 12 is 3, 72 divided by 12 is 6. That's fine. You just have to recognize that 3/6 can still be reduced because there's still a number that can go evenly into both your numerator and your denominator. And finally, letter F, 15 over 25. Well, their greatest common factor is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. So 3/5 should have been your reduced fraction. All right, that's it for today. Go ahead and do your problem set 14, starting on page 46 and ending on page 47. Let me know if you have any questions. Love you guys.